All right, friends, enjoyed that previous visit with our guy Shad Powers of the Desert Sun newspaper. As prefaced, a palpable twin billing of guests on this week's episode of the Spicer Speaking podcast. My next guest, real pleasure to have her at just 17 years old. She's accomplished more in her golf career, heck, probably in the last 5 months, and anything that we mid-handicapped duffers probably accomplish in our golf lifetimes. Fresh off a semifinal appearance in the U.S. Women's Am. You may have seen her on television recently competing in that event. Probably seen her on television this summer competing in a lot of USGA events and doing so quite well. She is a 2023 commit to the University of Southern California, and she is out in the desert proper this week to compete at both Mission Hills Country Club and Marriott Shadow Ridge Golf Club in the LPGA's Stage 1 of Q School. All that prefaced, welcome Bailey Shoemaker to the Spicer Speaking podcast. Hello, Bailey.
Hi.
Appreciate you joining. All right, I'm going to go through the chronology of what you have accomplished in recent months. Tell me if I got anything wrong. There's a lot here, but I want to orient the listeners, or in case of those on YouTube, the viewers. Let's go back to March a little bit, Bailey. You competed in the ANWA, the Augusta National Women's Amateur. From there, you made the final of the U.S. Women's Am 4-ball. In June, you competed in the U.S. Women's Open, where you made the cut, impressively finished tie for 49th. You appeared in an LPGA event, the ShopRite Classic, also made the cut, finished tie for 42nd. You won the Florida Women's Amateur Championship, the first junior ever to do so in the event's nearly 100-year history. We're still going here. There's a couple more, friends. The U.S. Girls Junior Am made the round of 32. And then, yes, at Chambers Bay last week, made the semifinals of the U.S. Women's Am. Know that you didn't make it to the final, but you basically ran into a buzzsaw in Saki Baba, who would go on the next day in a near record-setting pace to win that championship, 11-9. Kudos to you, Bailey, on all those accomplishments. To what do you attribute all this fine play of late?
Yeah, I mean, I've been busy lately. Especially starting in the spring. I had like 7 tournaments in a row. All were good. I had a good run in the spring. Obviously busy this summer so far. This is about my 5th tournament in a row right now, here at Q School. But yeah, just been on the road a lot lately, and I love the grind, so I like to keep it up.
You do. At just 17 years old, all that travel, all that golf, not too much for you?
I think it's awesome. I love traveling, and I love playing a lot of tournaments. I get made fun of a little bit by all my peers around me. They like 1 or 2 tournaments in a row is a lot for them, and I've played 7 tournaments in a row and early in the spring, and about 5, 6 right now. So I'm used to it, and I love it. It's my life right now.
Of all those accomplishments recent that stands out, what stands out most to me, rather, is your showing in the U.S. Women's Open at Pine Needles back in June. I mean, through the first 3 rounds, superb play, and that's not to go negative on the final round, but you were basically on the cusp of a top 10 finish. It looked like a very, very tough course. The eventual champion was one who is a previous major champion, which kind of gives a sense of how good you need to be to succeed in that atmosphere. What did that do for you? What was that experience like in the U.S. Women's Open?
Yeah, I played in Volunteers of America last July, I believe, and that was my first pro event and my first experience. So I feel like that helped me going into the U.S. Open, having that experience already. It was record breaking that week for fans and stuff. I mean, playing as an amateur is the coolest thing in the U.S. Women's Open, just because all the fans are automatically on your side. They want an underdog. They want the amateurs to do well, especially as a kid in high school. Just a really cool week, and I love fans and I love that kind of an atmosphere, so I always feed off of that. I thought it was the coolest thing. I played well the first 3 rounds. My putter was very good, as well as my chipping. Most of my short game was great that week. So I ended up getting a little bit of a crowd, which I loved. Was feeding off of that energy, but obviously last round wasn't too awesome. kind of left me a little bit, but it was a long week, a long grueling week. So it's bound to happen one day. But still awesome experience regardless.
Playing in a major championship. And I've asked some other girls or young women this over the years. Doing so as an amateur, do you feel like you're just kind of playing with house money? I mean, there's no expectation for you to win or probably finish in the top 10. So you can just go out, try to soak it in, try to enjoy the experience, be on television a little bit, which you were for some of those monster putts that I saw you roll in. Is that kind of like how it feels like you got nothing to lose?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's why it's better for amateurs to play in it. You're not playing for a paycheck and you're not playing for your career and your life on the line, basically. So you can just go out there and have fun and do what you do best and just enjoy golf more.
More recently, this last week, Saki Baba that you ran into, you actually tied with her. You both had the same score, coincidentally, perhaps. She also tied for 49th at the U.S. Women's Open. I mean, the fact that she would go on to win the title 11-9, did you just feel like you ran into a golfer who was just incredibly hot?
Um, I don't. I feel like a lot of people that watched the coverage felt that it was that way. But I struggled the last round last week. I had a lot of three putts, and the entire week my putter was very hot, and everybody saw that. I was making a lot of longer putts, had a lot of confidence with the putter, and that kind of left me the last round. Even in the quarterfinals when I played Lee Shen, my putter left me a little bit, and I wasn't making too much. Talked to Morgan about that, and I was hoping to get better for the semifinals when I played Saki, and I knew if my putter wasn't awesome, I would have a little bit harder of a time. She had a couple guaranteed birdies on par fives and stuff because she's longer than me, but my putter just wasn't hot, and that didn't help me too much. If it was better, like in my other matches, I would have liked to think it would end differently.
Bailey, we have established that of late, and I can only assume in recent years, well-traveled, playing golf courses around the country. Have you been to the Coachella Valley? You've been here to the Palm Springs area before?
I don't think I've been here before. I've been in Northern Cal by Poppy Hills once. SoCal a lot. This is the first time in Palm Springs, so.
Okay. Have you had some people tell you about the area, about the Palm Springs area? Maybe seen it on television for the Chevron Championship, the Dinosaur, which is no more a part of our golf culture, as this year was the last year before it moved. But maybe you've seen that course, the course that you will soon compete on, the Dinosaur Tournament course on television.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've grown up watching the LPGA my whole life, of course. And the Dinosaur is obviously just amazing. I always thought it was one of the best events in women's golf, just because of Poppy's Pond and the history that it had. Course is awesome, of course. I think it's one of the best, honestly, especially for TV. I feel like it's really entertaining to watch, and the course looks beautiful.
Friends, we were visiting with Bailey Shoemaker, just 17 years old, in the desert this week out of Dade City, Florida. She is set to compete in stage one of the LPGA's qualifying school, again, taking place two courses at Mission Hills Country Club, the Palmer and the Dinah, also being played at Marriott Shadow Ridge Golf Club right here in Palm Desert. 54-hole cut. The final round played back on the Dinah course for all competitors. Bailey, when you read about some of the rules, I got them printed out here for Q School. Was the first one that jumped out at you the cart rule, that carts are allowed this week?
Yeah, it was. Obviously something I'm not that used to, but given the heat now that I'm here, I see why we were given the carts, and I'm definitely glad that we are allowed the carts this week.
Let's talk about your decision to compete in Q School. As mentioned at the outset, you are a commit for next year. You still have a year of high school to go, correct?
Yep.
So a fall of 23 commit to play at USC. What for you? What's the objective with getting into to Q School? Are you just testing the waters a little bit, or do you just want to see how far you can go? You tell me.
A little bit of both, but mostly just testing the waters. It's I've heard from a lot of people, a lot of my friends that Q school is no joke, of course, and it's a grind, and mentally wearing and physically wearing. And I feel like personally, the more practice I have at it and the more tries I give it, the easier it'll be in the future. Of course, I still hope to attend USC coming next year, but I'm just here for practice. I feel like giving myself as many chances as I can possibly give myself, the better that I'll do in the long run. And it'll be hard to do Q school when I'm in college because of just the dates that it works out in. You know, it's hard for college kids to be able to try it. So I'm just trying it this year. We'll see how it goes.
I don't want to put you in a weird spot with this question. I mean, you mentioned that your commitment to USC, but in the event that you were to make it through this first stage this week, to make it through the second stage, and then ultimately make it to Q Series, have you thought about that potential hypothetical scenario in your golf career?
Yeah, I've thought about it for sure. These weeks are really hard. Stage one obviously is still incredibly difficult. I mean, I just gotta play good golf and try to get through it. And I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm still hoping to go to USC. I love my coaches there, love the team, love everything about it. I actually just changed my flights early because I didn't make finals at the AM. So I went and saw USC again. Went and toured campus again, and I love it. I'm looking forward to going to USC.
It's a interesting year or interesting timing, Bailey, competing in your particular spot for a Q school and perhaps Q series. In that, I think it was back in the spring that the LPGA announced a change to the Q series qualification criteria. And I'm just reading verbatim here from the press release, but it was announced that beginning this year, players must compete as professionals in Q series, which again is the third and final stage of qualifying for the LPGA Tour. If an amateur advances or is exempt into Q series, she must turn professional to compete for the opportunity to earn LPGA Tour membership. Goes on to say that all players who qualify for Q series through stage 2 of Q school receive Epson Tour status. Talked a lot of Epson Tour on this program. Amateur players can continue to compete as an amateur, which is permitted on the Epson Tour, or they may elect to turn professional and compete for an opportunity to advance directly to the LPGA. Now, that might sound like a lot, but it basically says to me that different this year is that you can't kind of toe the waters so much. And if you ultimately make it, then you have a decision to make, correct?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I obviously hope to just play as an amateur this week. I hope I get to make it that far, and then I'll have a decision to make then. But yeah, it kind of eliminated testing the waters a little bit for a lot of people if you were to make it that far. There's a lot of good amateurs and there's a lot of good junior golfers that I know can definitely make it to the final stage and then raise a question for them. Definitely a risky choice if you want to turn professional and risk not going to college, but yeah, just got to make it there first.
And I'm sorry to look too far ahead, but it couldn't help that this, for you in your particular position at 17 years old, not the youngest competitor, but certainly one of the youngest in the field this week. The way that the system used to work, I think for a few years there, the amateurs could toe the waters, but almost all of them, I think Jennifer Kupcho, who won out here in the spring, was a rare exception that she gained pro status, but that ultimately decided to remain an amateur for one more year. But most of them ended up going pro anyway, for what that's worth.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you're given that opportunity, especially here in Q school, it's really hard to pass it up. Q school is hard, and when you make it that far, it's honestly kind of hard to do it again. But even if I were to do that, I mean, more experience is better. So if I were to make it that far, it'd be a great experience for next time.
Mentioned Jennifer Kupcho. Any particular players, either that you came across or perhaps played with at the U.S. Women's Open or saw at that event, or maybe just in general, Bailey, whose game, the way they carry themselves, whose careers that you really look up to, that you really aspire toward?
Yeah, my first two rounds, I played with Pauline Racine-Bouchard and Paula Rito at the U.S. Women's Open, and they helped me a lot, and they carried themselves so well that week. They didn't play their best, obviously they didn't make the cut, they carried themselves so well. They were just happy to be there. I mean, U.S. Women's Open is one of the best tournaments, and they showed on coverage when I made my putt on 18 to guarantee that I make the cut. They gave me a hug, and they were just they said some kind words to me, and were very happy for me that I made the cut, and wished the best for me. And it was really nice to have that support from other players that have already had so much success on tour, and they know how hard it is. They know it's a grind. So just having their support as a kid in high school and going on to make the cut, I mean, it was pretty special to me.
What about LPGA legends? Is there anybody whose career you look up to that you're like, wow, someday I want to have a resume like hers?
Um, she's still so young, but Lydia Ko has always been one of my favorite pros, just because of her short game and her happy-go-lucky attitude. I mean, she's just a very kind person. I haven't crossed paths with her yet, but I hope one day I do. I just love how she carries herself, and I hope to have that success too one day.
Yeah, interesting. Lydia Ko, back when she was 17, she was granted a rare exemption to turn professional by then LPGA Tour Commissioner Mike Wan, now with the USGA, but they let her play at 17. And per your personality description, yeah, I've had the opportunity to interview Lydia Ko. And exactly as you said, couldn't have been a nicer young lady. And that was when she was even younger. That was probably 4 or 5 years ago. So that's a good one to choose.
Yeah.
Wrap it up with a couple more, Bailey. I know you got some practice and some practice rounds before stage one gets underway this Thursday. You're in luck in that yours truly, Uncle Juddy, your host of the Spicer Speaking podcast, readily familiar with all three courses that you will be playing this week. Probably played the Palmer and Shadow Ridge a couple hundred times. You want to pick my brain? You have any questions for me? I don't know if there's anything about the courses.
For sure.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
I mean, I played Palmer yesterday. That was my first practice round, and I started on 10, and I was actually kind of surprised. It seemed kind of short, and then I go to the front nine, and totally different than the back nine. I felt like the front nine played a lot longer. Do you think that the front nine's harder than the back nine?
I'm going to say yes, but only because there are a couple particular holes, which I think the ninth hole is maybe the one that I struggle with the most. I always kind of play it as a 3-shot par 4. I don't hit the ball super far, so I always kind of aim for prudence. And on that hole in particular, there's trouble to be found on the second shot on number 9 on Palmer. So I always kind of play it as a 3-shot hole. I like to come up from the right side. It leaves kind of a delicate chip because you're chipping toward water with the green kind of running away from you toward water. But for someone of your capabilities, I don't think that that's a chip that you're going to struggle with at all. I will say that the Palmer, I would probably consider it the quote unquote easiest of the 3 courses that you're going to play. How many yards did you play it from yesterday? What was the setup?
I'm actually not too sure. It was probably around like 62 to 6,400 though.
Okay.
It wasn't anything too crazy. The front nine had a lot more hybrids in, and the back nine had a lot more wedges, which is fair.
Yeah, I think that you'll probably have no problem getting after it on the Palmer. The Dinah, you said you've seen on television many times. You're familiar with that layout. Shadow Ridge is, of course, again, probably played it 200-300 times. And you've yet to play that course, correct?
Yeah, I'm actually playing that today.
Okay, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. My assessment, whether I tell Sterling golfers like yourself, or I tell buddies coming out in the winter to go knock it around and dust off their clubs from coming out from the Midwest. I don't think you'll have any trouble at all from the tee on Shadow Ridge. It is very much a resort style golf course to allow players to get off the tee no problem. It is, however, very much a second shot golf course. Puts a lot of bonus on the approaches. And the tip we always give for Marriott Shadow Ridge, don't play that course from behind the pin. That's where it's designed to be penal.
Okay. Sounds good. Green's rolling good? Pretty fast.
Well, we have, I guess, what I feel comfortable calling summer conditions here in the desert. Not what you're going to see in January, February, March, where everything is generally perfect. When I played there on Sunday, I got to say that I felt that the course played pretty slow, a little slower than what I'm used to seeing Shadow Ridge play like. Mostly referring to the green and the green surrounds. You have really sizable green structures with, they're fun. They have a lot of swales. They allow for a lot of creativity. So over the years, I learned how to play that course without aiming for the pin and allow
Yeah.
the swales to kind of just ride your ball in there somewhere. Be curious what you think today, because it wasn't playing with as much bounce. The greens were a little slower, didn't allow for as much undulation and roll toward the pin.
Right.
Maybe there's been some agronomy in the last couple days that is, and they've shaved it down a little bit, as well they should, to allow it to play a little faster for you ladies. But seeing those putts, that all those putts that you made at the US Women's Open, I think you're really going to have a good time playing Shadow Ridge.
I sure hope so. I hope that there's more of that this week.
Bailey, so appreciative of your time. Kudos to you on an exceptional career thus far at the mere age of 17. I know that and I trust my listener as well, will look forward to following the Q School leaderboard over the course of this week, again at Shadow Ridge, and the two of the three courses at Mission Hills Country Club. See how you're doing on that leaderboard. Again, thanks for your time and all the best to you this week.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.